kick off, and then others can join us a bit later if they're coming.
All right, people, who's coming in here? Let's go.
Awesome. Great job. All right, so my name's James, work for Rally Software. I'm a technical account manager there. So basically involved with our product. How many people know who Rally is or what we do? Excellent. So basically we've been around for 10 years, headquartered in Boulder, Colorado, and there's kind of three core components to our business. One component is the services side, so we have a whole range of agile coaching solutions, whether it be spinning up a small team or scaling right up to training of the executive management team. The second core piece is our Rally ALM platform, so Application Lifecycle Management Platform, which is what we're going to go through today. And the third piece is we have a whole lot of resources which are freely accessible on our site about all things Agile, whether it be videos or white papers or whatever, just general kind of community information sharing. So definitely encourage everyone to go to rallydev.com if you get a chance. So today I'm going to walk through our Rally platform. A quick poll of the audience. What tools do people currently use today to manage their Agile teams?
You know already, but basically Jira Greenhopper.
Jira Greenhopper?
Yeah.
I think we use AtTask. I've only been in the team 3 weeks, so I think it's AtTask and yeah, I think that's
okay, sure. About you guys? Greenhopper? Okay. So Rally was really designed from the ground up as an Agile ALM tool. So in other words, a tool that the teams use to manage their, their Agile teams. You could be running Scrum, you could be running Kanban, and you can seamlessly do that in Rally and roll all of that up. So it was built as a scalable solution. So you could be running, a single team of say 5 to 10 people, no problem at all. Or you could be a single team as part of a large organisation which has hundreds or thousands of seats, and Rally will seamlessly scale up to that. So at the core, it's a requirements management tool. So in Agile, requirements, of course, are user stories. So it effectively allows you to, control all of those user stories, has all of the end-to-end traceability in there. And then, of course, on the project management piece, allows you to create releases and iterations and manage your backlog and all of the typical sorts of things you would expect to do from an Agile team, from an Agile tool, sorry. So just to sort of walk you through what you're seeing here. So if there's anything in particular that people wanted to see today, do you just want like an overview of the whole tool, or is there a particular problem area that you've got in your environment at the moment? Yep.
Can you get people to use this program so that they can extract the value that is dependent on the approach to this tool?
So I guess as far as any tool's concerned, people will use it if they find value in the tool. So I think that's probably the key piece. Putting any tool in front of someone and say, go use it, you're probably not going to have a great success rate. But if it's really helping to enforce those good habits in the team, they're actually getting value, you're probably more likely to see adoption there. But I guess with any tool, it's kind of good practice to provide some level of training with that so people can get up to speed. And so in terms of this tool, we certainly support our customers in getting them up to speed, mapping their structure into it, and making sure that they get off and running as fast as possible. So just to give an overview of what we're kind of looking at here, so orient you in the tool. So firstly, this is the first screen that you'll come to in Rally, and this is basically what we call our dashboard screen. So each of these little blue rectangles are what we call apps, and we have a whole app catalog, which we'll walk through shortly. And you can basically configure this screen any way that you want. You can have multiple dashboard screens, and if you're an administrator, you can share those with everyone in your subscription, so you don't have to get everyone to create it themselves. If there is a preferred view of the information that you have, it's very easy to create and kind of share that. So this area here is what we call the enterprise program structure. And this really is part of the scalability of the tool. So just to explain what we're looking at here, The demo data that we're looking at the moment is for an online store. Okay, so think of it like an eBay or something like that. And this particular business has two components to it. They develop a consumer site and they develop a reseller site. And if you look under the consumer site, you can see there's three teams. There is the fulfillment team, the payment team, and the shopping team. And all of these teams work together to develop the consumer site. So the consumer site's really like the program, if you like. Likewise, there's a reseller side, and there's two teams that work on that. So it's very easy to map this structure inside of Rally, and once you've got it set up that way, this becomes the scoping hierarchy. So in other words, currently we're scoped to the shopping team, so everything we're seeing inside of the dashboard or any other screen in Rally is just showing me information that's specific to the shopping team. If I was a program manager and I wanted that higher level view, then it's as simple as coming in here, selecting that consumer site level, and you'll see Rally will now update, and now it will be showing everything at that program level. So you've got that seamless scalability. Creating that structure doesn't affect the data or how the data is entered or anything like that, and you can modify this structure as often as you like. So in other words, if another team joins, you can easily add a team in. There's another program of work that comes online, it's very easy to put another program in, and all of a sudden you've got that kind of reportability at any level that you like. So after the dashboards, we've got the plan tab, and the plan tab is where all of the planning activities take place, like creating releases and iterations. I'll come back to each of these sections in a bit more detail, but I just want to give you kind of an orientation of what you're looking at first. The track tab is where, once the project is set up, that's where you'll go to basically track things when they're off and running. You've got the quality tab, which is where all of your defect and test case management takes place. You've got the reporting tab, which is you can dynamically generate any number of reports. You've obviously got the ability to search anything in the system. And last but not least, you've got the green question mark, so any page or any pop-up window inside of Rally will take you to context-sensitive help, which may actually include videos, not just text. We have a whole bunch of kind of helpful training videos. So to come back to some of these areas, firstly, if we take a look at this dashboard just to kind of walk through that, this is just an example of a team member dashboard. So this is the sort of thing a team member might like to see. So you can see the app in the top corner is showing you my tasks, so the things that are assigned to you. Next, you've got my test cases, you've got my defects. So it's just easy to get to that information you need without having to flip through all the different screens. There's discussion threads inside of the tool. Not so helpful for a co-located team, because right in Agile we want everyone to kind of communicate directly together. But as soon as you're working in larger multi-team programs, or you have people off-site, distributed teams, having communication threads captured in the tool is very helpful. And various other things. This little iteration summary panel just gives that nice kind of snapshot. It highlights things like 3 days remaining of a 10-day iteration, and I've only got 50% of my stories accepted at the moment, 3 active defects and 63% test passing. So just kind of highlights that nice high-level information. And of course, you've got your classic Agile burn-up as well. So if we move over to the plan tab, then obviously you've got your backlog in there. It's a prioritized backlog, so adding things is very easy. Prioritizing things is just drag and drop, which makes it nice and easy. Double-clicking on any of these areas, you can edit that information. If you want to add fields, extra columns of information, you can do that through this menu. So what we're seeing here, let's move that around, so I'll drag this column over here. So you might remember that I talked about this being the scoping hierarchy. So because we're at the program level, which is the consumer site, and we're on the backlog page, it's actually showing me my program level backlog. And you can see which team each of these items is allocated to: shopping team, payment team, fulfillment team. But if I want to filter that back down again, I would just say select the shopping team. And now it's just highlighting the shopping team backlog. Very easy to add stories up here. You can either add them just with the name, or if you have more information, you can do that as well. Likewise, you'd want to create releases or iterations. You don't have to create releases if you don't want to, but you want to. If you're using Scrum anyway, you'll obviously want to create iterations. But as I mentioned, this Rally also supports Kanban as well, so that's no problem.
Does it have the concept of features? So,
yep.
you know, I've got, I'm creating a product and I might have several vertical slices of the system which are features that might come out of my funding.
Right.
So I want to see progress on those features. So can you track those?
Absolutely.
Is that at a project level or at a portfolio level? Or?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Some key functionality that's built into Rally is what we call Rally Portfolio Manager, and that really speaks to that portfolio piece you're talking about. So basically, inside of Rally, you've got your traditional stories, and story really is the currency of the team. So that's what the teams use at that execution layer. What comes in at the strategy layer is what we call portfolio items. And so what happens is you've got these portfolio items that connect directly to your story tree, and that information is seamlessly rolled up to your point. So let me show you an example of that so we can see. So here's an example of a portfolio dashboard. So what we're looking at here is each one of these cards is actually a portfolio item. So you see it starts with the identifier PI. And PIs are like a strategy level story. So you're not going to score it in terms of it's 10 points or it's 100 points. You're going to give it a t-shirt sizing. You're going to give it a risk value, a risk and a value score so that you can actually prioritize this. And then what we have the ability to do is actually manage those PIs through a Kanban board. So in other words, you can define the states in your process that needs to be managed before it actually gets to the team level. So if we take a look at the example here, you can see that the PIs come in, the first state it comes into is just an idea. So the business still doesn't even know if it's going to greenlight it, right? Then it goes to business case, then it goes to prioritize, build, measure, and then archive. So the program managers or the business level people will manage these PIs through the system. And to your original question, how do we know the roll-up? How do we know how far we are through that feature? Well, if you look at some of these PIs here, you can see that this top one here is 60% of the way through. And the reason we know that is because all of the stories are attached, and as the teams are actually working on the stories and marking them accepted, then it seamlessly gets rolled up. So this is a very effective and very unique way of managing the portfolio. So a lot of the customers that we worked with and stuff, they said, you know what, we have quite mature Agile adoptions. We've got all our teams, they're sprinting away, it's all great, but we're drowning in a sea of stories. We can't manage things at that portfolio level because there's too much detail out there. And so then we sort of said, well, how are you managing that at the moment? And they said, well, we're managing it in Excel, we're managing it in PowerPoint, we're manually having to create all these reports. So having everything in the one tool like this means you don't have to do any of that anymore, because you can basically get full visibility into what's happening in your portfolio, and all that information is automatically being rolled up.
So with the progress tracking, one issue that I've had in the past is you end up with a significant amount of stories that are never going to get delivered.
Sure.
And they sit in your backlog.
Right.
They might be estimated. But do they contribute to the percentage complete, or can you sort of exclude and include a certain...
Only if they've actually been attached to an iteration.
Okay, so they're still in the backlog, they don't get included.
That's right. So if they're unscheduled, then it's just going to sit in the backlog. But as soon as you pulled it into an iteration or a release, then it's going to want to roll that up to the top.
So that's percent completed of...
Yep. So let's...
Because we sometimes don't plan what we're going to do like 3 or 4 iterations ahead. We just plan an iteration ahead, but we might have a 4-month body of work. So do you still get clarity into progress?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. So what's this saying is we're 60% complete through the stories that we've broken out and understand at the moment. So if there is a chunk of work that you haven't fully elaborated yet, you might want to create a dummy story and allocate 500 points to it or whatever makes sense in the context of that project, so that you've still got a weighting of, I know there's approximately that much work left, I haven't decomposed it, but I'll just keep a bucket there if you like. And if you do that, then that's going to be reflective of that overall point allocation. If you haven't done that, then it's only going to be reflective of the stories that you've actually broken out.
So you can still technically run a backlog with one iteration and just be pulling things from the backlog into your only iteration, and then that measurement, that progression is, you can set, you can calibrate depending on how many iterations you want, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all stories that are sort of pulled into that tree will basically roll up for you. The other view of the information, a lot of people say, well, I work in an organisation and the PMO is still a bit traditional, and they don't think in terms of agile teams. Can you export this to a Gantt chart, or is there any sort of more traditional view of that information? And we've got the timeline. So this isn't a Gantt chart, but this is showing you on a more traditional kind of view, if you like, how things look. So you can see here what we've done is we've expanded out the portfolio item hierarchy. So we can see that the business from the outset said, you know what, we want to revamp our online presence. We don't know what that means at the moment, but let's work that out. They've decomposed it into a series of sub-PIs. Minimal online shopping site, which they further decomposed into new features, credit card payments, knowledge base, etc., etc. And then once each individual feature gets green lit, then the team kind of breaks out those stories. And then here's how it looks on a timeline. So we can see that the grey bars are the original planned start and end date for the PI. The green bars represent, or it could be a yellow or red bar, but the bar underneath is the actual, so where the PI is currently at. And then, of course, you've got your percentage indicator right next to it on the timeline, so you get a sense of how far you are through all of that. All right, so now we've kind of come back to that team level view, if you like. We saw before that you set up all of your planning, and then once you're off and running and you actually want to start tracking these projects, there's a couple of views that you can use to do that. This is a more traditional kind of list type view of where you're at in the iteration. Now we're looking at the iteration backlog, not the full backlog. And what we're seeing here is when I expand that out, I'm seeing story S70 as an example. If I click on this little button here, it's showing me these are all the tasks that are associated with the story. So tasks are unique artifacts inside of Rally. You've got stories, you've got PIs, you've got defects, you've got tasks, etc. So you can see all of this kind of end-to-end traceability. If I click on the next button, I'm seeing all my test cases that are associated with that story. And then if I click on my bug button here, it's showing me any defects that may have been written against that story. So another way of looking at that is if I click on the unique ID of an artifact anywhere inside of Rally, it takes us off to what we call a details page. And this really kind of highlights that end-to-end traceability, which is really so important. So obviously the top level, you've got all your basic details about your story. So user story and acceptance criteria, definition of done if you want that, release it's been allocated to, etc. But in the left nav, we can see all the other things that are related to that story. So if this story was part of a hierarchy and had children, that would be highlighted here. I can set up easily dependencies between any other story in the system, doesn't matter what team it's allocated to. If I had that, they would appear as predecessors or successors. We already saw from the other screen that this particular story has 6 tasks associated with it, 2 defects, 6 test cases. There's been 6 tests run against it. I've got discussion threads in here. And then, of course, I've got a automated revision history, so anytime anything's changed, it's recorded in the system along with the time and the person that made the change. So you've really got that kind of end-to-end traceability inherent in the tool. So another way of looking at this information, if you've come from, a team that's used to using project boards, they might say, I really want more of a board view of things. So what you can do in Rally is you can append what we call these apps to the bottom of any menu, and you can lay it out however you like. So if I want to add, say, a storyboard, then I can just create a new page. I can tell it what format I want that page to be in, whether it's 2-column, 3-column, full page. For this purpose, let's leave it as full page. And then once I do that, it takes us to the app catalog. And there's just a whole bunch of out-of-the-box apps that you can take advantage of. And they're all categorized. So at the top we've got boards. So, if you want to add a storyboard, which we're going to do, you just select the storyboard and click Add that app. If you were a tester, say, and you're interested in more quality-related apps, then you could scroll down to the quality section, and there's a whole bunch of apps related to quality. If you were a program manager and you were interested in release management, then you would come down to release management, and there's all sorts of things: release burn-ups, release defect trends, release scope change is a really big one. What have we been adding and removing as we go on throughout the release? So there's all sorts of useful apps that you can easily add. So in this case, we were just going to add a storyboard. So you just select storyboard, click Add App. And now we've got this page permanently in our area. If you are a administrator, you could share that. So you could just add that for everyone without them having to do it. And now you've got your traditional virtual story wall. And if I want to update the status, then I can just drag and drop the card from one area to the other. So it's completely up to the user as to how they want to visualize and use that information. Is anyone running Kanban at the moment? No? If you were, then you could attach the Kanban wall, which is very similar to the story wall, but it's got the extra bits of functionality that you would expect to see from a Kanban team. So you've got the ability to add your policies in the top. So in other words, the criteria that needs to be met before a card gets pulled from one state to the next. You can set your work in progress limits. So if I look at this particular column, I can see my work in process limit is 2 cards. I've actually pulled 4 cards in here, so it's highlighting that column red for me, so I can help sort of manage those kind of bottlenecks in the system. So that's another view of the information. So one other thing about Rally 2 is it's really been designed as a very customizable solution, and one where you can really push the information in and out of Rally. So really it's designed to be the central source of truth. So we don't want you to go to all the different tools that you've got out there to try and get an accurate status of where you're at. You just need to come to Rally, and you can set up a whole lot of out-of-the-box integrations with all the kind of tools that you use, so that you can really have that central source of truth. So for example, if you go to our website, you can see that it's not on this page, it is on the integrations page. So under platforms and products integrations, these are all of the out-of-the-box integrations that we support. So, often get asked about, things like HPQC, build management, Jenkins, just a whole range of source code management systems, etc., that you can integrate to. So with those integrations, they're bi-directional integrations. So the whole idea is that if your test team, for example, works in HPQC, they can continue to write their bugs and test cases in QC. But with the integration, it will then push them into Rally. So then the dev team can use Rally, update the status of them in Rally, and then that updated status gets pushed back to HPQC. So you don't have to double enter the data, and both systems are always showing the most accurate information. So that's also a big part of it. We don't want Rally to be an island. So if you use a tool that is not seen on these out-of-the-box integrations, then you can actually write your own integration fairly easily, depending on the tool that you're working with. Likewise, the platform itself is very customizable. So although previously I showed you a series of out-of-the-box apps, that's just what we currently offer. There's quite a vibrant community of people who customize their own apps to do all sorts of things. I mean, there's no limit whether it's reporting or you name it. Imagination's the limit. So we've got our own app SDK out there. So when we look at the quality tab, defect and test case management is built into Rally natively, so you don't have to integrate to an HPQC, for example. You can just manage it all inside of Rally itself. But if you work in an organisation and they might have a standard for everything to go through an HPQC, then you can set up that integration. But we don't dictate one or the other. It's up to you. If you were to use the native integration, then the quality pages are what you'd expect to see. This is the defect page, so this is a pretty standard defect inventory, all the defects in the system, severity, priority, state, etc. Likewise with test cases, again, test case inventory, as we saw before, easily associated with any user story out there to ensure you've got that kind of traceability. So any questions at this point? Is that all making sense?
What's the SDK as it presents itself? Is it just web services?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, so there's all, there's a whole lot of information on the web basically. We've just started leveraging GitHub, so our second generation app SDK is in beta at the moment and available. It will go live very, very shortly. And all of the apps that the community writes are going to be uploaded to GitHub, and so you can just seamlessly download the JavaScript for the other apps that are being written and put it in a custom app and you're off and running. Very easy to do. Any other questions at this point? Does the sort of stuff that we've walked through today, does that kind of resonate with you? Is that the sort of things you'd be looking for in terms of managing Agile teams? Yep. All right, so the last thing to run over is just on the reporting side. Obviously, you're going to want to report out on that information. So if you did want to create reports, you just come to the Reports tab. Whole lot of icons for all sorts of reports, release, burn up, story burn downs, you name it, tag story burn downs. If you tag stories, then you can do a burn down specifically based on those tags, etc., etc. So it's very easy to generate these reports. If you see one you like, you basically just click on it, and it will just generate that report for you. So Rally was built as a SaaS company from the ground up. So our solution's in the cloud basically. All you need is a browser to access it. 90 to 95% of our customers use our SaaS solution. If for no other reason than it's a lower cost of ownership, it's super easy. You just need a browser anywhere in the world. We use the Akamai caching infrastructure to ensure really fast access speeds anywhere you are. We worry about backing up your data. We worry about the security. We do deployments at least once a week, often multiple times per week. And all you need to do is log in. You'll always have access to the latest version, so it's very easy. There are some customers that are particularly security sensitive, and in those cases they like an on-premise installation, so we also offer an on-premise installation as well. Obviously the same product, same feature set, but with an on-premise deployment, then you've got to put it on your own servers, you've got to administer it, you've got to handle the updates and things like that. So it comes down to what the customers are after. Yeah.
In your mind, is there a clear differentiator for this product in the market, and what is it?
Yep, great question. Yeah, I think there's a few differentiators. I think that firstly, we were built 10 years ago from the ground up as a highly scalable SaaS-based Agile ALM solution. So, Jira is great. It's an awesome defect management tool, but it's a defect management tool. And they've got Greenhopper, but really that's just an add-on. It wasn't built from the ground up as an Agile ALM tool. So if you're using Jira, you're probably going to find lots of limitations. Splitting stories can be cumbersome. You're limited to 2-level hierarchies. If you're using Jira in any kind of scalable scenario with lots and lots of seats and stuff, you're going to have a lot of performance issues. You're going to encounter things like that because it wasn't designed for this purpose. So fundamentally, that's what Rally's about. Some of the other key points is integrations with external tools. As you saw, we have out-of-the-box integrations that are very easy to set up to all of the main tools that you would expect to see. If it doesn't integrate to those tools, then you can write your own integration. We have a very customizable solution through these apps. You can basically write anything within our app SDK that's going to be limited only by your imagination. So it's a highly customizable platform. You've got the end-to-end traceability. So you've got, I showed you the end-to-end traceability that's built in. You can extend that right into the source code level. Okay, so if you want to say, we've got to do Rev 2.0 of this, and these are the stories that need to be done to actually create that, you can then link those stories directly back to the source code so you know exactly what was changed in that branch. So you've really got that full end-to-end solution. Beyond all of that, Rally Portfolio Manager is absolutely unique. There is nothing out there that can manage your portfolio of Agile teams. So there's a lot of portfolio management solutions, which they call PPM solutions, like Clarity and Primavera and things like that. They are waterfall-based models. They have value in terms of they do handle financials and things like that, which is great. Rally doesn't go anywhere in the financial space at the moment, but they are waterfall-based. So if you have an agile organisation and agile teams, they're not going to fit very well within that PPM space.
I don't want to cut you short.
Yep.
You're welcome to stay and talk about like we've got the other ones going on upstairs. So put that as a fishbowl conversation. So there's a bunch of people in the middle, people listening. If you want to participate in the conversation, you get out of your chair, you go sit in the middle, and then you participate. So it's one of those things. It's like if you like, those things are going to go for about half an hour. You won't be walking anytime.
No worries. Cool. Yes.
I have one more question.
Sure. Absolutely.
Was there a moment in the life cycle of Rally where something clicked, whether it was 2 years or 5 years in, and you were like, right, got it? Was there a moment like that for you guys?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think it was kind of always built with this vision in mind and the scalability. I think probably the most exciting thing for us is the Rally Portfolio Manager, because that's really taken us into areas and really taking the industry into areas that we haven't been before.
Yeah.
So definitely that was a real pivotal turning point. We realised that about 18 months to 2 years ago, and we started working directly with our customers to kind of build out and prove that functionality out before we actually released it in the main line. But yeah, that's in terms of the most exciting directions, that's definitely the hot one at the moment. Any other questions? Excellent. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much.